program. Prior to starting this recording, we have created our account on our collaboration tool, which is Slack. All right, as you can see on my screen, we have a collaboration tool, and the name of this collaboration tool is called Slack. Slack is S-L-A-C-K. With this collaboration tools, we're going to be using it to do our assignment, communicate with each other, everything work related. All right. And prior to starting this recording, I said we're going to look at a 30 days challenge. And that 30 days challenge would be to learn what we call SQL. Now, what is the full meaning of SQL? SQL stands, I'm going to open a notepad and just type it out so that we can all SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Before I break it down further, this course, what we are learning is called MS SQL. Server Database Administration. And when you are done, you'll be referred to as a Microsoft SQL Server DBA, Database Administrator. Okay, so why Microsoft SQL Server Database Administration? The first thing I would like to let you know that it is very, very easy to understand. It is easy to understand. The databases are very, very easy to understand. Think about it. There is nothing we do right now that we do not make use of our what they call applications. Every application that you see is running on a particular operating system. For example, your Android phone use what do they call what's the operating system for Android? I only know of Apple. Apple is iOS, right? Android is what's the operating system? I know they are different.
Is it Windows? No, not Windows.
iOS.
iOS is for Apple, right?
Yes, iOS for Apple.
I think it's safe.
Yes.
Okay. So then for Microsoft SQL Server, somebody mentioned it, we have Windows, all your laptops. If you see your PC, that is why I recommended that we should all buy HP laptop that have Windows operating system. Why? Because it is owned by Microsoft. So your application could be a phone application, it could be web application, whatever it is. Data is very, very important. Let us take it as simple as when a child is born in the hospital. When a new baby is born in the hospital, what do they happen? They have to register that child, right? They register the child's name, they put the information, they store everything. That platform that they use to collect the data from you is an application. It can be web-based, it could be on your phone. If you want to check your health records, your doctor would have sent you a link to an application. Any form in which they collect your data through an application, in the back end, it is going into what they call database. What is your database? A database is just a simple collection of data. That when you hear the name database, we have Air Force Base where you have Air Force people staying. So when you hear the term database, it's a location where you store data. So what is our job? Our job is to make sure that we maintain those data. We make sure that the data is safe, is secured. And what do we do? What tools do we use to do this? This is why I'm saying we're leveraging on what is called Microsoft SQL Server. Microsoft has come up with a tool that is helping organizations around the world manage their database. In the olden days, when you go into an office, you see people, storing information on files. What can happen if there's any fire, you lost those files, you know, back home in Africa, when we started going to school, they'll store your results. If you go to your headmaster or your principal's office, you're going to see a big cabinet and they have files, class 1, class 2, class 3. Fast forward these days, you go to a shop, to Walmart, you want to buy something in Walmart, you're going to see they will arrange different items in different aisles. All those items have been stored in the inventory, and it is stored, and that inventory is linked up with your database, such that everything, every item is recorded and is stored somewhere. So your job is to make sure that you maintain that database. And what kind of tool are we going to use? What are we going to be learning? We're going to be learning how to use Microsoft SQL Server to manage our database. So let's assume that you go and you want to buy something, say you're hungry, you pick up your app, your Uber Eats app. The moment you look for any store around you and you select your items, what happens? The moment you commit your transaction, you say, what do they even say in that last stage? You buy, for example, add all the tips, and then you say you confirm that you want to buy something. It sends a message to the store. The store has a database. They retrieve your information, they make your food, and they send it back. So anytime you do anything on that application, be it a bank application, health application, Uber Eats, airplane, you're traveling, you want to book your flight using an app, anytime you are in that phone pressing something, you are actually sending a statement to your application and telling your application to go and talk to your database. That is why it is important to know that in Microsoft SQL Server, the language that we use to talk to the database is SQL. And SQL stands for Structured Query Language. That is why I said we're going to do a 30-day challenge. That's it. SQL, Structured Query Language. So it has some basic syntax. Just the same way right now we saw somebody that has never used Slack. She was able to go into Slack and was able to navigate it. It's very easy. If you go to SQL, you start from the home. So what is SQL? SQL is a standard query language for storing, manipulating, and retrieving what? Data in the database. So in case you go for an interview, they tell you what is SQL. You're going to say, oh, SQL means structured query language, is what I use to manipulate my database. Is anytime I send any information via an application to the database, it is talking to my database through a language. I'm communicating with you now through English language, right? If you go to Dominican Republic, they are going to use a language to talk to you, Spanish. If you want to become a Microsoft SQL Server Database Administrator, the language that you use to talk to your database is called SQL. Now, SQL will teach you how to write some basic simple queries to retrieve data from your relational database system. As you can see here, we have different relational databases. Who can tell me from all these ones, which one are we concentrating on? Which one are we
SQL.
concentrating? SQL. So what we are learning is SQL Server. Okay? So, and you see the next thing they say, start learning SQL now. So you start from there. You see that is going to show you what is SQL. SQL stands for what? Structured Query Language. What does the query let you do? It lets you to access and manipulate your database. All right, you don't need to know all this theory when it was made. Nobody will ask you that. What can the SQL do? SQL can help you execute queries against your database. From my explanation, I said, anytime you want to order something, anytime you want to check your health record, you are actually writing a query. But because the technicians, the developers, they know that people, they need to see it in a form that they can understand. What you are seeing is name, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. You put it. The moment you say it, you hit enter, boom, it sends a query. What would that query do? Let me ask you a question. Assuming you go into an hospital, a nurse has a paper and a pen. The moment you give the nurse, the nurse wants to check your record, they ask you for your name. What will she start doing with her pen and her paper? She'll start to do what? The moment you start giving her your information, what will she do to it?
Take notes, write it down.
Write it down. So the same thing when you pick an application and you start to put information, you are writing to the database. You are writing queries, but you will not see it because you are looking at the user interface. Behind the scene, what is happening is that you are writing queries. That's what is happening behind the scene. All right? Behind the scene, you'll see that you're writing queries. But when you are writing into the application, you will not be able to see that. But behind the scene, we can pull out that information and show you that you are writing queries. Okay? So, what if you want to also retrieve information from your database? For example, you want to check your bank account balance. You just bought something on Amazon. You want to quickly log into your bank app to see how much dollars do I have there. What will you do? When you go to your phone application, what do? You go and click on the amount, right? And you look at the history of your transaction. That is also writing a statement behind the scene that you are not seeing. All of those things, are we going to be writing queries? No. It's not our job to write queries, but you need to understand the basic queries and how it works. That is why I'm saying the 30 days challenge, we're going to do it. All right? So look at the different things you can do with SQL. All right? So you see that? However, he's talking to you about all of these things. So the first thing I want you to do, the moment you're done with this, is to go into the SQL syntax. You start from there. Remember, it's a statement. You're writing, when you get to the police station, you have a case with someone, what they tell you, can you write down a statement? So now we're going to start writing SQL statements, but there are different syntax that we use. Look at this basic one. Let's say you have a table called customers, and you want to see everything. You want to retrieve information from your database. You just write a simple statement. Say, you're speaking English. You open up your fridge. You want to see everything that is inside your fridge. How would you write that command? That's English language, right? But if I want to talk to my server, I will not say open up the fridge. I want to see everything. I'll just say select all from the fridge for me. It will open up the fridge and show me everything inside there. If this is the only command you learn in a day, is this difficult to learn in one day? I need your feedback. Is this a difficult
No,
thing
it's
to
not.
learn?
No, no.
So I don't need it to
No.
rush. I want you to take one per day. If you say, hey, the more you get, the more you go closer, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be it will start to be complex, but everything that you see here that is complex is speaking English language, but just using our terminology. This is just saying, look at that. The moment you get here, say, hey, select all records. That's what it means. So if you want to select all records from your customers table, what is the query? Select star from customers. Now, you'll be doing this on the side while I'm teaching you how to administer, how to manage database. In managing of database, you're going to be using some of these queries at times. Somebody can be writing a query that will be causing problems in your database. They'll call you as the database administrator. What is happening? You should be able to look at the query and say, oh, you're selecting all the records from the table. Why don't you try to select, instead of selecting all the records, the table is very big. It has about 10 billion records. That is going to take a long time for you to see your information. Why don't you just select only one item, or what exactly do you want to see? Select only that item and you'll quickly see your data. So that is why you should understand the basic terminologies. If at the end of 30 days, remember we have just 3 months in this class. If by the end of 30 days you have learned 15 of these statements, you are already on your way to earning 6 figures. And I mean it. So when you're done with that one, you just say, try it yourself. You follow, try it yourself. You know, very easy. For example, look at this is like an information, this is like a database. How do I know it's a database? Because I said a database is any collection of data and information, right? You can see it here. This is somebody's data. And the name of this table is called customers. Okay, these are people's data. So if I want to see all the information that is in this table, all I just write is select star. Say, try it yourself. Look at that. The moment you click, it said, select star from customers. Okay, run it. Let's see. Look at that. It gave me my result from the database. So this is online for you. Look at now, you are querying a database, fetching a record. If I don't want to see everything, I just want to only see customer ID. All I just need to do is to remove, instead of saying select all, I just say select customer ID, customer, select. I only want to see customer ID. I don't want to see everything. Look at this, select customer ID from customers. When you do like this, look at, do you see that? Can you guys see that? It gave me 91 records. So if I want to see everything, what do I use again, guys? If you want to see everything in a table, what do you use? Select what?
All.
Star. Select
Star all.
Yes, that's star. Look at it. I'll see everything. Now, if I only want to see address column, what do I change in my query? What do I put here?
Select
If I only want
address.
You change.
Select address.
run it. It shows you only the address of people. But now, look at this now. Is this giving me good information? I'll say no. I want to see customer ID and address. Customer ID. I want to also see the address. I want to see 2 columns. Look at now, I'm speaking English. You see I put comma. If you are writing English and you want to see 2 or more items, are you not going to put a comma? You're going to put a comma, right? Look at this.
Yes.
Good. So now, let me assume that I don't want to see that. I want to see, so I can go down and I write this again. I want to see, because I want to teach you guys how to query your database. These are very simple techniques to query your database. Look at this. If I highlight only this and I run it, sorry. Okay, it's not sensitive enough to know that I'm not on my server. So now, I don't know which other column was there before, but let me cut this column. Let me replace it with a select all. Again, the course is very interesting. This is just introduction. We're not going to be writing query, but I just wanted to have a basic understanding. So now I want to see customer ID. I want to see address, and I want to see the city. So what do? I just add one more column there, address, city. So when you run it, it will show you 3 columns. So in a nutshell, that is what you're going to be doing for the next 30 days. Pick it. Don't be in a hurry. If I were you, come onto Slack. If you have learned a query in one day, just come here and say, hey, who is available? I want to practice how to write select statements. And you guys come, you do several examples how to write select statements from the table. Run it on that online database. It will give you your result. But, so that is that about what we're going to be doing. While we are looking at part 1 of our course, we would also pay attention to this 3 days challenge. Any questions on this?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. It's very easy to understand, right? Good. So just as it is easy to understand like this, I'm just going to stop this recording here so it won't be too long. And I'll resume the recording of chapter 1 today. What is a domain? So let me stop this recording. I'm going to stop this first recording and then we'll resume another recording of what is a domain. Or you know what? let me continue with this. It is not going to be too long. I'll just continue with this. And then, so from our course outline, the first thing we're going to be looking at is what is a domain? Okay, I'm going to bring out my note here. Good. So day one. What is a domain? Domain as it concerns SQL, Microsoft SQL Server. Have you guys ever heard anybody saying something like, hey, don't cross my domain. If you come into my domain, I'm going to deal with you. Like your territory, right? Have anybody ever heard that? Has anybody ever heard anybody talk about something like that to say?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've
Yes.
heard it a couple times.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. 1 second. I want to, in case, let me make somebody co-host so that if people are coming in, I may not see them. Clement, please, as people come in, help me to accept. Clement, are you there? I need somebody on this new class who is on their computer that can help me to be accepting people when they come in because I want to concentrate.
I'm on my computer, but I don't know how to let people in yet.
It will pop up on your screen, so I'm going to
Okay,
make
good.
you co-host as well. You see
All
it
right.
will pop up on your screen. Okay, good. So anytime you hear domain in Microsoft SQL Server, it's talking about a group of computer or users or other resources that are managed as a unit. Oh, you guys are not seeing what I'm reading, right? Oh my goodness. Sorry, I brought the wrong, let me put this one here. Good. Can you guys see it now? Can you guys see
Yes.
my screen? Good.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
where I'm reading from. In the context of Microsoft SQL Server administration, when you hear the term domain, it typically refers to group of computers or users. Who are users? Users are people that simply use computers, right? And other resources that are managed as a unit within a network is very, very important. Let me paint a simple picture to explain that to you so that you understand what domain is in Microsoft SQL as related to Microsoft SQL Server. So let's assume that we have, oh, didn't come. Good. Let's assume that we have this domain here like this, and we have group of computers that are here, okay? And then we have, say, we have something here. So let me say in your office, if you go to your office, right, you have things like printers, right? There's a printers, right? You have printers. And let's assume that here, this is computer one, computer one, computer two, and this is the third one, computer three. Good. Now, what is a domain? A domain is based on our definition. If you look at it here, I just want to put it this way so that you can see. Good, just follow me. Says, refers to group of computers. So we have group of computers here, right? Let me expand this guy. Good. Good. A domain refers to a group of computers. This is computer one, computer two, computer three. Users and other resources like printers that are managed together, that are managed as a unit within a network. Group of computers, other resources that are managed together within a network. Let's say if this network belongs to a company called MegaTech, the moment you bring somebody into MegaTech, assuming it's your office that you're working, if MegaTech registers their organization and they say we want a domain, what are they going to do? They're going to give MegaTech a domain name, right? That domain name can either be something like megatech.com, meaning that if MegaTech has 3 computers in its domain, if these computers want to be able to talk to each other, if they are together in the same domain, it makes it easier for whichever person that joins that organization to be able to log into any computer at any time to work, to do their job. Now, let me give you an example. Who works in the healthcare sector here? Anybody work in the healthcare sector presently?
I do.
When you get
I
to
do.
work, do you ever log into any computer to capture your report of your clients, or how do you guys, who can explain what they do when they get to work for me?
Yeah, I do what you were just saying. Yeah, I log in when I get in.
So you have your own computer or it's a general computer?
I have my own computer.
You have your own computer, good. Does anybody have work in a hotel where you have to go like front desk, where you need to, or does anybody work in a place where you can go and share computer with other users?
I also work in a place like that.
Okay, good. So what makes it possible for you to be able to work at home or do anything? Let's assume that your office is MegaTech, right? Because you have a domain that has made it possible for all your computers to be able to connect to each other to share resources. It is easier for you to be able to log in securely to your office network. All of that is made possible by what we call a domain. All right. That is why if somebody is not a member of your organization, even if you leave your laptop at home, the person will need what would the person need to be able to log into your computer? Your username and your password. But when you join that organization, they created, if you remember, HR or whoever signed you up sent you your username and password. So that was made possible because your office has a domain. All right. Normally, that domain is always associated with what we call Active Directory. Think of a directory like your phone. Your phone has directory, right? In that directory, you have several users in it. So your domain is always associated with what we call the Active Directory, which is a directory services developed by what? By Microsoft for Windows domain networks. What are the key points that you need to know about domains when you're talking about SQL Server? Those are the things I explained just now. 1, user authentication. Your domain makes it possible to allow a central management of your user account and permissions. Back to this, before I go dive into that, let's assume that we have this computer. So if all this computer belong to MegaTech domain, that means this computer would be networked with each other. How will it be networked to each other? There is something called a domain controller. Domain controller. So inside this your domain controller, you are going to make sure that you add computer 1 inside. You add all the computers in your organization there. And this computer now that is housing your domain, what's the name of this company? MegaTech, right? So the moment that is the domain controller, it becomes what we call megatech.com. That is why your organization, think about it, if they give you your username, who knows how your username normally appear? It will be first name dot last name, right? At your company name. Does anybody have any email address that looks like that?
Yes.
So how did they derive that email address? They derived it from your domain controller. Because all the computers, the reason you are able to log into your computer, both at work or at home, is because your computer, those three computer, one computer, two computer, three, has been added to your domain controller. So inside this domain controller, we also have all the users, all the people that are being employed into your organization. They are kept inside here too, which is what we call the Active Directory. The Active Directory has the names of all the computers and the names of all your employees. So whoever is, when you join this company, they are going to go into, they'll send your information to the domain controller, to the IT people. They will go into the domain controller and add you as a user. Automatically, the moment they add you, you can go into any of your computer and you are able to log in and do your job. The moment you are fired or the moment you get a new job and you leave this company, all they need to do is to go to the domain controller and delete you. The moment they remove you, go and try it again. Even if you have the computer at home, you can never access that network, because a domain is a group of computers and other resources that have been linked together to work in a network. That is very easy to get. Any questions on this before I talk on the next thing? Is it that easy to understand this now using this picture? Any questions?
No.
I need to hear the new people.
No question.
No questions.
Okay, good. So that means when you join this organization, all right, they are going, look at, here are a few key points about domain in SQL Server administration, what we are learning. User authentication. So your domain allows it easy for you to be able to manage all your users and their permissions. SQL Server can use domain account for authentication, which simplifies the management of users across multiple servers, which is what I just explained. Let's assume that somebody just joined this organization, MegaTech. Say, I see Mark. Mark just joined this organization. The moment Mark joins megatech.com, all we just need to do is to go to the domain controller and create a new user and call it the user Mark. So if your name is Mark, so the moment you create that Mark automatically has the user, has what we call the right to go in and log into any computer that is in that domain. That's what it's saying. As we are going to see, now let me issue a disclaimer. When you join your organization, it is not your job to add users in domain controller. But because we are learning from scratch, I want you to understand how it works. Your first job as a database administrator comes in when you start to install SQL Server. So, but before we install SQL Server, you must have an understanding of what Active Directory is. You must have an understanding of how to create users in Active Directory. It will help you appreciate it more when you're trying to log into SQL Server or when you're trying to install SQL Server. So there's what we call service accounts. As the name sounds, whenever you are setting up SQL Server, remember I said your first job comes when you are setting up SQL Server, you can specify a domain service account to run what we call SQL Server services. This is generally recommended for security reasons, as it allows for better control and auditing. There's what we also call resource management. Domain also help you to organize and manage your resources, such as database, servers, and application. This makes it easy for you to apply company policy. All your company policies can be applied in the domain, and you'll be able to manage your permission consistently across your networks. So domain just makes it easy for your organization to manage all the computers within their network, within their domain. Okay? So, cross-domain access. SQL Server can be configured to allow users from different domains. That is true. If you have an organization can have more than one domain. Okay, so there's a way we can configure it to make sure that if you are working in that organization, say you have two clients that are using two different domains, you have permission to access both domains. That's what it's saying. Now, we're not going to go into all of this. All right. Good. I just want to recap on what we just, this is the end of the introduction on what a domain is, but let me recap. I'll go back to my paint. Look at this. I want to ask you guys an intelligent question. So, because all these computers have been networked together, Mac can be on computer 1, Genera can be on computer 2, Dolapo can be on computer 3, and all of them can send something. Let's say if you are both working in the same office, you guys are on your different desks and you want to print something. Because this printer has also been joined to your domain, you can send something to printer. Mac can send, Genera can send, Dolapo can send. But let's assume that somebody is not part of your domain, has a computer somewhere, say computer 4. I want to ask you guys an intelligent question. If this user in computer 4 tries to come into your domain, can this user access this domain? Will this person be able to send anything to the printer?
No.
No. Why? Because it is not part of this domain. There's a firewall, there's a network blocking it. That's why you must keep hackers out of your company's network. So if this guy, say your company just bought a new machine, right? They just bought a new machine. This guy has not yet been joined into the Active Directory. They now said, okay, fine. This guy now said, okay, good. He has joined your company, right? He has logged into your company Wi-Fi. Let's assume that this is your company Wi-Fi. They gave him the password. All of you are still using the Wi-Fi, right? He too now came and said, okay, he has access to the Wi-Fi and he tries to send something to the printer. He will not be able to print. That's a security risk. For him to be able to print, who can tell me what to do to this computer for him to be able to print?
You'd have to add him to the
Excellent. You have to add
cluster.
him to the domain, to the cluster. Who said that? Who is that? Who is that, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So you bring computer 4 in here. So for this guy to be able to talk so you bring computer 4 and you join the computer 4 to your domain. Boom. The moment they join it to the domain, it will appear here. Bam, computer 4. So domain controller will know that a new machine has entered our domain. It's secured now. So this guy now can now print. Say if Mark went on break, before Mark came back, Yao just got to office and he said, oh, it's my turn. I want to quickly go and work. Yao can easily come here and log out and just log into his own, to the same computer. Why? Because he is a user in that domain. So any user in the domain can log into any computer in the domain. Let's assume these are all laptops that is given to all our users. The moment you take this laptop home and you can connect to the company's VPN, they call it virtual private network, which has been added to this domain as well. The moment you join that VPN, sorry, my handwriting is not good there. The moment you connect, you take your computer at home, right? The moment you connect and join your computer's VPN, that VPN automatically is recognized in the Active Directory and you can do anything within the organization. You can log into their resources and do your work and access all the computers and access all the services that are inside your computer. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the introduction of what is a domain. Let me quickly recap. A domain, again, is a group of computers, users, and other resources that are managed within a central network. This is often associated with what we call Active Directory. What makes your Active Directory able to become a domain? You're going to have to promote it to what we call a domain controller, or DC, which is what I have here. Okay? And then because you have added computers in the domain, it makes it easier for you to be able to manage your security. You'll be able to create accounts that will log into any computer in your domain and have them to do anything they want to do. So this brings us to the end of the class for today. What is a domain? We still have time. Again, I don't like stretching the class or making the video so long. This is enough for us to digest for today. It's a lot of information. So I want us to go back and please, I'll teach you something too. For you to be able to enjoy this course, you must be able to do research. What is research? There's what we call co-pilot. Please, even when I'm teaching you, you can open Copilot. What is it? Oh, this thing is not. Copilot is also owned by Microsoft. How do you learn? You have just heard about domain today, right? Just go to there and just say, what is a domain? In anything I'm teaching you here, if you are doing researching anything on this course, always add SQL Server. Or to make it easier, put Microsoft MS SQL Server. And you say enter. Look at that. Copilot will search the web and get you information. Look at it. So in Microsoft SQL Server, a domain is essentially blah, blah, blah. To explain this, for example, you can create, look at this for email addresses that you see, this can even take you, you can see different, look, create domain. You can see different information. You can learn more. You see that. Then he said, how do I create? You can ask further question. Everything is going to, what do they call it? Artificial intelligence. Okay. So you can go there and do your research, even though this one is not, okay, what is a domain as relates? Let me tweak this. What is a domain as it concerns, any way you can search it is fine, concerns SQL Server management. Okay, good. He gave me a cue. You can just put that. It's going to give you everything. Okay, it's bringing out, good. Yeah, this is the one I want to see. Look at this. Yeah, you see, as it concerns SQL Server management. In the context of SQL Server management, a domain typically refers to a Windows domain, which is a network, you see it there, of computers that are managed as a unit. Look at it, authentication, which is what I just shared with you guys. So you can learn more. Look at it. Look at this. When you click on that link, it says connect SQL servers in another domain using Windows authentication. Don't worry, I'm going to teach you all of this. Okay, I'm going to teach you all of this. It's very easy to understand, but let's take it one step at a time. I'm just teaching you how to do your research. So this brings us to the end of chapter 1 of our class. What is a domain? Any question? Any questions on this before we wrap up?
No, no questions.
All
No.
right, so
Can
I'm
I-
going to,
One
yes,
second,
No
please.
questions.
Can I ask for more explanation on the account service account?
good. That's a good question. So he's asking for more information on service accounts. Now, your job comes as a SQL Server database administrator when you want to install SQL Server. He asked a question about service accounts. So, when installing SQL Server, you need to specify a service account. A service account is a secured account, a secured domain account that is used to run SQL Server services. That's it. So, service account is not just any kind of account. It's an account that you use that is secured. That means it must be created in where? It must be created in the domain controller, right? It must be created, it must be part of a domain for it to be able to even install SQL Server, because you don't want to use any account to go and install SQL Server. SQL Server is where your database is sitting inside. So you want to make sure that you have a unique service account to run those services, and hackers must not know what that account is, because if they know it, they can hack into your account and steal people's information. That is why your service account must be created in the domain controller, secured inside here. And that service account, because it's created here, can log into any of this account and run your services for you. So if your service account is expired, your SQL Server will not run until you go and update the password. So service account, when you are setting up SQL Server, you can specify the domain service account to run SQL Server services. That's it there. You see it? I also said it here. So as you would see in next week, or as we begin to deep dive inside to see how to install SQL Server, you will begin to hear the term service account. Service account. You say, oh, this is what it spoke about. Service account. Service account. That's a good question. Any other question, please? Please ask me questions. There is no question that is. No question? Any questions? Okay, based on your understanding today, what is a domain? Who can talk to me about what a domain is?
Domain is a building or network of computers. It like allows computers to interact with each other.
Excellent. Excellent. So if a computer is not part of a domain, can it access its resources?
No.
So what will you do for a computer to be able to talk to each other?
It has to
Connect
be
to the
added.
domain.
Connected to the domain. As easy as that. That's it. At least you've learned something for today. That's it. I have nothing again to say for today. So that brings us to the end of today's class. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Please connect on time.
Sorry, 1 second before you go. The recorded lesson, how do we get it?
What? The what?
The recorded lesson.